Creeps. G'day peeps, my name is Scripps and welcome back to another speed paint. In this video we're actually doing Hollow Knight again, and I know that some people might be a little tired of seeing Hollow Knight stuff on the channel, and I can totally get behind that, but it's just that I love those games so much and those games are so dear to me, or well, this one game so far. We'll wait and see if I actually enjoy Silksong. Very unlikely that I'm not gonna like it, but still I wanted to do some fan art for it, so you guys who don't really like this type of content, sorry, but you're just kinda gonna have to sit this one out. But for some of you who are watching, then this might actually be kind of familiar, especially if you've been following my channel for a while, because a while ago I did a creating OCs, Hollow Knight OCs from the bottom video that I think was about Silksong. I don't know, I think I did that when Silksong was announced. Yep, don't worry, I've checked up on it. Silksong was announced at that point, so I definitely know that the idea behind that video was to create some OCs, some original characters who could actually be in Silksong, or potentially be in Silksong. But I felt like I was kind of letting people down with that video. I was kind of letting myself down with that video, because I remember at that point I was kind of going through like artist block. Yeah, you know, that thing that pretty much any artist goes through at a completely random point in time. But I didn't really know what to draw, or I just forgot my ability how to draw. And then I also just decided to do a crap ton of characters, so the characters that I did do ended up sort of just being very low tier sketches and didn't really have like a lot of thought put into each and every one of them, which I think is a real shame, because one of the things that I think is important if you want to do fan art, or to me at least, then research I think is really great. If you want to make fan art of some, or create OCs or something that should fit into the universe, then you should research and know about the universe. So that's just my opinion. But it has actually led me down this sort of rabbit hole when it came to researching this one video, and I came up with a bunch of different ideas for a bunch of different characters, but I decided not to walk into the same mistake again and do them all in one video. So who knows, I might even make this into a small series where I just, or maybe not a series, I'm not gonna announce it as a series, but I'm just gonna do a series of videos where I do these different kinds of OCs and original character ideas for Hollow Knight Silksong, which I think is very great, because I think this first episode and the first drawing actually went pretty well, and I think it stuck pretty well to the style. But basically the idea behind this character is that it's going to be the insect butterfly, and the reason for that is because we've actually not seen a lot of butterflies in Hollow Knight. We've seen one, and that's the one that sings, and it also seems like a very standout-ish, like design, doesn't it? Like it doesn't really feel like something that's in Hollow Knight regularly. She even has hair, which is weird because none of the other bugs really have hair the same way that she does. It might be a character design that's based on like a donator or something. Because like when Hollow Knight was getting kickstarted, they promised that if you donated a certain amount of money, they put you in a game. So that I think that might be like one of those designs that were submitted. But I wanted to do a proper like butterfly, because I thought that the idea of like a butterfly faction almost in Silksong could be very cool. Because this character, and actually I was kind of thinking out how the entire boss battle, because I am kind of drawing a boss I think, so I was kind of picturing how the entire boss fight would go, and it all just seems to fit so much into Hollow Knight's like cute and nice versus creepy, gross, and messed up. Because the idea behind this boss battle is actually that there's this entire butterfly faction, or this entire like species of butterfly in Hollow Knight Silksong. That's the hypothetical that I'm creating here anyway. And the idea is basically that they're all about beauty, because butterflies are like famously some of the most pretty insects out there, or at least in humans' opinion. So I wanted to make the butterfly faction like very, very much about beauty and very snobby and very egotistical, and they might even be at the top of the kingdom in Silksong, so they could kind of be like almost the final faction to fight or something like that. But the idea of the boss battle is basically that it would go like, I might actually illustrate this or animate it or in some way kind of show you to get you in the mood to understand my train of thought here. But the idea would basically be that Hornet would step into this larger arena, or this larger place where this cocoon-like thing would be in the background, and all the different butterflies would be desperately trying to protect it. And you wouldn't really know what it is. And then you would all of a sudden end up setting fire to the whole thing, and then you realize that you just set fire to their queen butterfly, or basically the butterfly who is supposed to be the prettiest of them all. So I think it would be a very cool, like, really Hollow Knighty twist to have something as beautiful, calm, and collected like the queen of butterflies be lit on fire, and that's the way that she breaks out of her cocoon or breaks out of her sleep state and enters the battle kind of like half on fire, like total Two-Face style. But I also thought that the idea just like as a level design would be really cool, because the entire level or the like all the enemies you'd be fighting up until then, they would be kind of like the Mantis Lords, because all those butterfly like underlings would be fighting with ego and like finesse and charm, and they'd be all fancy to fight. And then the final fight, because she's on fire, she'd be totally wailing at you and going through the entire battle in total madness, swinging around this weapon while covering up or trying to put out their burning body, potentially even using the fire as like a weapon. And that, I think that would be a very cool twist on the very cute and beautiful cartoonish style that Hollow Knight has. And it's even something they've done before, like with the plague and the infestation in Hollow Knight, like in the regular game. Like how a bunch of the bosses, they seem to look so nice, but then all the infection breaks out of them, and all of a sudden, like this entire beautiful world that already seemed kind of creepy and uncanny, but in a beautiful way, turned totally downhill and just gross and creepy weird when they all begin to wiggle because they got the infestation and like all the bulbous yellow things that stick out of their heads. Like, it's a twist that they've done in the art style before, and it's something that I really like Hollow Knight for, the fact that it doesn't stick to this cutesy aesthetic, and they kind of use it as like a contrast or a way to cover up how brutal the world actually is with this beautiful art style. So that's why I thought that this boss would be kind of like a build on this sort of twist that they've already done before, and I think it could just be a cool change to actually have some fire and stuff put into the game, because we haven't actually seen any fire bosses or any sort of fire area. The only like place they were planning to make, they actually removed from the game, like the bone forests, which I might actually use as a huge inspiration for some of my future episodes on this kind of like drawing OCs thing. So look out for that, because a lot of cut content from this game is really cool, so I'm gonna definitely use that. But going back to the actual design, then oh yeah, what was it? Oh yeah, like the weapon that they used, I thought it was actually sort of like a coincidence, a happy coincidence, but I was thinking of like items that look like bells, because bells do seem to be like a reoccurring theme from what we can gather from the trailer. There's bells everywhere, there's even entire places dedicated to only bells, and there's bell graveyards, there's bell caves, there's bells freaking everywhere. So I was looking for something that could be bell-shaped, and used as a weapon, but I didn't want to just make it a bell, because, I don't know, that would seem kind of, I don't know, not original, I guess, I don't really know. But I was still looking for something that could kind of be like swung as a hammer, as aggressively as a hammer, but also still had the kind of like shape of a bell. So that's why I thought of like my old grandma's fire snuffer. And I actually also thought of this because of the art style's color, like the kind of bronzy brass color. Because my grandma used to have one of those fire snuffers that's kind of like a hood that you put over a candle. And I thought that, wow, that actually kind of looks like a weapon that you could use. It kind of looks like a hammer, but just without the actual part you hit with. And it's just kind of hollow, and then you extinguish light. So I thought, how ironic and kind of cool, like a cool sadistic twist, like twisting the dagger move, would it be if this already tragic boss that was on fire was actually fighting with something that you use to put out fire. And maybe they just did, and maybe like the boss just didn't know of it. They just grabbed the nearest item and started wailing on them to protect themselves. So I don't know. I just think that's such a cool idea, and that's why I really like doing research for these kind of things, because, well, I can draw a character, but I think a lot of people forget to put in like the pre-work, a lot of the pre-work before you actually sit and draw, because you can come up with a ton of different designs and then figure out the story later. But if you figure out the story later, then you might have a lot of aspects of that character that don't really seem to fit, or you feel like you could have done better now that you've actually done the story. So that's always like a thing I like to do. A lot of the time I like to just create entire universes and settings and history behind a single character before I start drawing them, like an original character or something like that, because I also love storytelling, so it's something, or world building especially, so it's something that I like doing. But if it's not something you're really into or something you've tried before, then I still recommend that you kind of look into it, because it's almost the same like creative process as drawing, because you just think of different ways to create a universe from the bottom up. And isn't that something that, and I think if anyone would enjoy doing such a thing, then that would be like an artist. But then again, that might just be me. Maybe a lot of people just literally like the idea of just sitting and drawing and not actually the entire world building and story behind the character. And that's completely fine. There's a bunch of people out there who have extreme technical skills when it comes to drawing, but don't really enjoy the whole building story behind a character. And I think that's fine. But it's just, if I want to create fan art, then I don't just want to create fan art that kind of sticks out. I want to create fan art that, or like fan art, like original characters and stuff, then I want them to perfectly fit into the world by like analyzing it and going into detail and thinking what were the developers even considering putting in there and what would fit in the universe. And especially stuff like art style and color. I feel like color is especially something that a lot of people underestimate, because a lot of people just create like an original character and then give them kind of like a color palette that isn't really original to the game. And basically I pretty much tried to get the best palette for Silksong that I could, and that was kind of like focus on the dark reds, and then the brass kind of bronze color that we've seen a lot, like with the belts and stuff. And once again, red with like the fire and kind of like grim troopy theme that we've seen throughout the trailer already. And also, I just realized it might actually be complete opposites of Hollow Knight's color palette, because Hollow Knight was very much about the cold, kind of like bluish color, and then a lot of silver. Whereas in this game, it's much more fitted to like Hollow Knight or Hornet's character, I think, now that I actually... Well, that's interesting, because Hornet is a lot more of an aggressive character. She's a lot more prideful, she's a lot more agile, I think, and the whole setting of the game isn't as lonely anymore. It's way more aggressive and lively, so therefore it's more focused on the warmer colors like red, and then the more prideful colors like golden. Wow, that's actually very interesting. See, now I'm very happy that I stuck to the color palette, or I tried to find a distinct color palette, because I think I might have just learned something interesting. But anyways, if there's anything I should leave off this video, I guess it's also getting kind of up there to the 12 minutes, and I don't want to keep these... I want to keep these speed paints somewhat short, but if there was anything to like, if there was any tip to take from this when it comes to creating an original character, because while I'm not very good at drawing, yet anyway, then I still think that I'm pretty decent when it comes to creating a character that should fit like into a world. So that's what I'm basically going to be leaving a tip on, but that is basically just to research. And if you want to create fantastic fan art, then what's really impressive fan art, in my opinion at least, isn't actually fan art that stands out. You could even like outdo the potential artists and concept artists behind the game, and even make your fan art look a lot better than the original game. But in my opinion, then the best fan art is actually stuff that's almost seamless, where your character seems completely and absolutely like something that would fit into the world of the game that you're trying to imitate, and completely fit into the narrative even, so like they're just ready for picking and could pretty much be put in the game if a developer spotted your fan art. So that's, or at least that's my favorite. Of course, then it's also cool to see these from time to time, like extremely realistic. I don't know if you've seen them, but the extremely realistic drawings of Hollow Knight and stuff, that can be kind of creepy and cool and interesting to look at. So of course that's cool fan art. But I think just if you're trying to create an original character that you're trying to make fit into the world, then really try to like think about what is the game about, what's its message, what's it feel, what's its story, what's its characters, where in the world could my character fit in, and then I just think you'll end up with some character design that people will think, wow, that is actually just concept art. And once again, who knows? Even maybe if the developer spot you, then you might get hired to do some concept art for him or something. So who knows? He might kind of help you out in the end. But yeah, I guess that's just my tip on creating fan art, which isn't even really a lot about the art stuff. It's just about research. So research before you make your characters, people. That's my only real advice, because I am not at the skill level to start giving people advice on drawing yet. But anyways, this is where I'm going to leave off this video. Let me know what you think of the drawing, actually, because I'm actually quite proud of it. So let me know what parts you liked best and what parts you didn't like. Let me even get some critique on the coloring style or something like that. I'm kind of playing around with a way to color that isn't too hard to do, but also kind of looks nice. So I thought this would kind of work. So I would love some critique on that. But anyways, except for that, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.